The poor cleaner worked every day at a crowded bus station, starting early in the morning before the city fully woke up. His job was simple but exhausting: sweeping floors, picking up trash, and keeping the station clean for thousands of travelers who passed through without noticing him. He wore worn-out clothes, and his shoes were cracked from years of hard use, but he never complained. To most people, he was invisible, just another worker doing a job no one wanted. Passengers hurried past him, focused on their phones, tickets, and destinations. Some avoided eye contact, while others treated him as if he were part of the station itself, present, yet unnoticed. A few even looked down on him, judging his worth by his uniform and poverty. Still, the cleaner continued his work with patience and quiet dignity. He believed that honest work, no matter how small it seemed, had value. Despite his difficult life, the cleaner carried a gentle heart. He understood hardship because he lived it every day. Hunger, exhaustion, and loneliness were familiar companions, yet they had not made him bitter. Instead, they had taught him empathy. He knew what it felt like to be ignored, to be treated as unimportant, and this understanding shaped the way he saw others. As he swept the station floors, he paid attention not just to the dirt, but to people, their faces, their struggles, their silence. While others rushed through life, the cleaner moved slowly, observant and thoughtful. Though the world around him failed to notice his presence, he remained fully aware of the world. This quiet awareness, born from hardship and humility, would soon lead him to do something that revealed the true strength of his character. Although the cleaner lived in deep poverty, his heart was rich with kindness and compassion. Life had never been easy for him. From a young age, he had learned that survival required hard work, patience, and endurance. He had faced hunger on many nights and rejection on many days. Yet these hardships did not harden his soul. Instead, they shaped his understanding of human pain. The cleaner believed that dignity did not come from wealth, status, or education, but from how a person treated others. Even when people spoke harshly to him or ignored him completely, he responded with silence and calm. He had no anger toward those who looked down on him, because he knew that arrogance often came from ignorance, not strength. His kindness showed itself in small, unnoticed ways. He would move aside to let elderly passengers pass, help someone pick up dropped belongings, or offer directions when asked. He never expected gratitude. For him, doing good was not an act meant to be seen. It was simply the right thing to do. The cleaner's sense of humanity came from his own suffering. He understood that everyone carried invisible burdens. Just as he swept away dirt from the station floor, he believed people should help lighten each other's emotional weight whenever possible. Compassion, in his eyes, was not weakness but quiet courage. Even in moments of exhaustion, when his arms ached and his stomach was empty, he did not lose his empathy. He reminded himself that kindness cost nothing, yet its value was immeasurable. This deep sense of humanity, hidden beneath his poor appearance, made him different from those who judged by looks alone, and it would soon guide his actions in a moment when others chose to walk away. One afternoon, as the cleaner moved slowly across the bus station, his eyes caught something unusual near one of the benches. Amid the noise of engines, footsteps, and loud announcements, he noticed an old woman lying on the ground. Her body was weak and still, her handbag clutched tightly to her chest, as if she feared it might be taken from her. Sweat covered her face, and her breathing was shallow. At first glance, she looked like someone the crowd had already decided to ignore. People stepped around her carefully, treating her as an obstacle rather than a human being in distress. Some glanced briefly and looked away, uncomfortable with the sight. Others assumed she was homeless, sick, or simply not worth their time. The busy station continued to move, indifferent to her silent suffering. The cleaner stopped sweeping. His grip on the broom loosened as concern filled his heart. Years of hardship had trained his eyes to recognize pain quickly. He knew the difference between someone resting and someone in need of help. Unlike the others, he did not question whether it was his responsibility. He did not wonder what he might gain or lose. He only saw a fragile human being who could not stand on her own. For a moment, he looked around, hoping someone else would step forward. But no one did. The world rushed past the old woman, unchanged and uncaring. In that moment, the cleaner made a quiet decision. one that would define him far more than his job ever could. He set his broom aside and walked toward her, unaware that this simple act of stopping would soon reveal the true difference between humanity and indifference. As the old woman lay on the ground, people continued to pass by her without stopping. The bus station was full of life, yet strangely empty of compassion. Travelers hurried toward their buses, afraid of missing their departures. Some glanced at the woman briefly, then looked away, convincing themselves that someone else would help. Others whispered assumptions, that she was drunk, homeless, or pretending. These thoughts made it easier for them to walk past without guilt. A few people slowed their steps, but chose distance over involvement. They feared inconvenience, responsibility, or delay. In a place where everyone was busy, kindness felt like a burden. The woman's weakness made people uncomfortable, reminding them of their own vulnerability, so they avoided her presence altogether. Children tugged at their parents' hands, curious, but were quickly pulled away. Vendors continued shouting prices, guards remained at their posts, and announcements echoed through the station. Life moved on as if nothing unusual were happening. The old woman became invisible, not because she was unseen, but because she was deliberately ignored. From the ground, she watched shoes pass by one after another. Each step that avoided her felt heavier than the last. Her strength was fading, and with it, her hope. She wondered how a place so crowded could feel so lonely. Her silence was not peace, it was resignation. This collective indifference revealed a harsh truth. People often measure compassion by convenience. When help requires effort, many choose comfort instead. The crowd believed ignoring the woman protected them from trouble, but in reality, it exposed a deeper problem: the loss of empathy in everyday life. Amid this sea of indifference, only one person truly noticed what was happening. While others saw a problem to avoid, the cleaner saw a human being in need. And that difference would soon change the course of the story. The cleaner did not hesitate. He set his broom aside, wiped his hands on his worn pants, and carefully approached the old woman. Unlike the others, he did not think about inconvenience or time. He did not question why she was there or whether helping her was his responsibility. In that moment, there was only one thought in his mind. She needed help, and he could provide it. Kneeling beside her, he gently asked if she was okay. When she could only shake her head slightly, he supported her body with steady hands, helping her sit up. His touch was careful, respectful, and calm. He noticed how frail her frame was and how every movement seemed to cost her pain. Yet he did not falter or withdraw. The cleaner offered her water from his own bottle, noticing the gratitude in her eyes. Even though he was poor, he shared what little he had without hesitation. He adjusted her position so she would be comfortable and shaded from the harsh sunlight streaming through the station. His actions were deliberate and thoughtful, reflecting a quiet attentiveness that most people seemed to have forgotten existed. As he spoke gently to her, reassuring her that she was safe, a small crowd began to gather. Some watched silently, amazed that anyone would stop to help. A few muttered excuses for why they hadn't acted sooner, while others looked ashamed of their indifference. But the cleaner paid them no mind. He focused entirely on the old woman, offering empathy rather than judgment, patience rather than pity. In those moments, his humanity shone brighter than any wealth or status could. While others had walked past, seeing a problem they could ignore, he had acted immediately, seeing a person who needed him. This simple choice, born from empathy rather than obligation, marked the turning point in the story, proving that true compassion is recognized not by appearances, but by the courage to act when it matters most. After helping the old woman sit comfortably, the cleaner remained by her side, offering gentle reassurance. He noticed her trembling hands and the faint look of fear in her eyes. Without hesitation, he began speaking softly, telling her that she was safe and that he would not leave until she felt better. His voice carried a calm certainty, the kind that only comes from someone who truly cares. He reached into his small bag and offered her some of the food he had packed for himself earlier that day. Though he was poor and often went hungry, he had no doubt that sharing was the right thing to do. The woman's eyes filled with tears, not just from her exhaustion, but from the warmth and kindness she had not expected. It was a simple gesture, yet for her, it spoke volumes. The cleaner noticed small details, the way her shoes were worn, the trembling of her knees, the way her clothes were slightly disheveled. He adjusted her scarf to protect her from the sun and held her hand gently while she took slow, deep breaths. There was no rush in his actions. Each movement was thoughtful and deliberate. While the crowd around them remained mostly passive, he remained fully attentive, showing a level of care that could not be measured in money or status. At that moment, it became clear that empathy is not a matter of wealth, intelligence, or social position. It is a matter of the heart. The cleaner's actions went beyond duty. They were an expression of humanity itself. In a world where most people had turned away, he had chosen to stay. His presence gave her strength, his words gave her comfort, and his quiet dedication reminded everyone watching that even small acts of kindness could carry immense weight. Through this, the cleaner exemplified a truth often forgotten. Genuine compassion is expressed through action, not thought, and it often emerges from those least expected to show it. The old woman gradually began to regain her composure as the cleaner stayed by her side. At first, she had been frightened, unsure if anyone would help her or even notice her distress. But his unwavering attention and gentle care changed everything. She realized that someone truly saw her, not just her fragile body, but her humanity. In that moment, she felt a sense of value she hadn't experienced in a long time. Her eyes, once clouded with fear, now held a glimmer of hope. For hours, she had been ignored by countless strangers, each absorbed in their own lives. The world had moved past her, indifferent to her suffering. But this man, poor and unnoticed by society, had given her something far more precious than money or material help. He had given her recognition and respect. She tried to speak, but her voice trembled. The cleaner encouraged her with a kind smile, listening patiently to each word. Every gesture he made, from offering water to holding her hand, reassured her that she was not alone. The small acts of compassion that he displayed became monumental in her eyes because they contrasted so sharply with the neglect of the people around them. The crowd that had gathered watched quietly. Some seemed ashamed of their earlier indifference, while others whispered about the rarity of such selfless behavior. The cleaner, however, remained focused entirely on the woman. He did not seek attention or praise. For him, helping someone in need was not about recognition. It was a moral choice, a reflection of his inner values. Through this encounter, the old woman learned a profound truth. True humanity often resides in those who have little but give everything they can. While society measured worth by wealth and status, it was the poor cleaner who demonstrated the greatest richness of spirit. The woman felt a deep gratitude, not just for his help, but for reminding her that kindness and empathy still existed in the world. After some time, the cleaner helped the old woman to her feet, steadying her with patience and care. Slowly, she regained her strength enough to walk, and it was then that the truth about her identity became clear. She was not a stranger or someone lost in life. She belonged to a wealthy and respected family in the city. The revelation surprised both the onlookers and the woman herself. She had expected pity, maybe even judgment, but instead, she had received genuine kindness from someone society often overlooked. The woman's family arrived soon after, clearly worried and searching desperately. When they saw the cleaner, helping her with such dignity and respect, they were stunned. Their eyes reflected a mix of gratitude, amazement, and embarrassment, for they realized that someone from humble means had done what they or others could not. In that moment, wealth and status felt irrelevant. The cleaner's simple act of humanity had far greater value than any material gift could offer. The old woman's gratitude was heartfelt. She tried to offer him money or some form of reward, but he politely refused. He did not help her because he expected recognition or reward. He helped her because it was the right thing to do. His actions showed that compassion and empathy are qualities that cannot be measured by wealth, education, or position. They come from the heart. The incident became a silent lesson for everyone who witnessed it. People began to understand that true humanity often shines brightest in those who live modestly, unnoticed, or even disregarded by society. While others passed by, the cleaner had stopped, acted, and cared. In doing so, he revealed that the value of a person is not in how the world sees them, but in how they treat others, especially when no one is watching. This encounter left a lasting impression on the old woman and her family. They realized that the kindest hearts often belong to those least expected, and that acts of true empathy can change perspectives and inspire respect in ways that money and status never can. After the incident, the cleaner quietly returned to his work at the bus station, broom in hand, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. To him, helping the old woman was simply an expression of his humanity, not a heroic act. Yet, for those who had witnessed it, his behavior left a profound impression. They realized that true compassion is not shown through grand gestures or material wealth, but through small, selfless acts performed with sincerity and care. The old woman, now safe with her family, could not stop thinking about the cleaner. She had expected strangers to ignore her, to see her weakness as a burden. Instead, a man with little to his name had shown patience, respect, and genuine concern. She understood that the value of a person is measured not by their status, clothing, or possessions, but by the goodness of their heart and the actions they take to help others. The cleaner's refusal to accept a reward further solidified the lesson for everyone around. He did not help for recognition or profit, but because he knew that empathy and kindness are responsibilities of every human being. His simple decision to act when others walked by revealed a universal truth. In moments that test our morality, it is our choices, not our wealth or power, that define us. People in the crowd began to reflect on their own behavior. How often had they ignored someone in need? How often had they judged by appearance or assumed that responsibility lay with someone else? The cleaner's quiet courage challenged these assumptions, inspiring a renewed sense of moral awareness. Ultimately, the story ends with a timeless message. True humanity often comes from the most unexpected places. It is not the rich or powerful who define compassion, but the humble and selfless who act without expectation. In a world that often overlooks kindness, the poor cleaner's actions remind us that empathy is the greatest wealth anyone can possess.